It's the SDG Podcast. Before we get started, you can check us out on the web at solutiondesign.com/podcast or find us on all the social medias, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Solution Design Group.
We're off to the races. So an article I read based on an article The Verge wrote that was based on an article written by Reuters. I think they did the actual journalism.
It was based on a rumor on Twitter that somebody just made up.
Yeah, actually, I looked into it. It was written by a guy named Blake Britton, who's a copyright journalist or whatever. So he covers this kind of thing. Peter recommended we talk about this decision that happened last week, that you cannot copyright AI that has no human author. And speaking of humans,
so you say we, but who are we?
Yeah, I should probably introduce everybody. That's a key moment. So with us today to talk about this is Eric Snyder.
Howdy.
Allison Lorenzo.
Hello.
And Peter Lawrence.
Hi there.
And I was going to get to it about halfway through introductions. It was going to happen.
Halfway through the hour?
Yeah.
Introducing us now, Kyle Bacher.
Well, my brain hurts because I was really looking into this because, I'm a movie buff and it's just, this whole AI thing is there's so many problems that are going to happen. So many legal decisions are going to affect the industry. And this wasn't really a new decision. It was upholding existing copyright law that requires a human being. So if you created the AI that created the image, does that qualify, Peter?
Nope. Your humanness has to be involved in the actual creation part of it, I think, is how it's going. I know that there's a lot of twists and turns. I was just reminded of the monkey selfie case from a while ago, and looking up, I'm like, now how did that get decided? And it's true, monkeys cannot hold copyright of their works, and they go to the public domain. So the monkey selfies are public domain, in case you're wondering.
I gotta tell my cat she's gonna be furious.
Well, they didn't rule on cat selfies. Yeah.
No, she's been working for years on an artistic piece called "A Shredded Back of a Couch."
Yeah.
And the fact that she can't own that is going to be very upsetting. She spent her life on it.
It's a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I guess, there's all these discussions. We heard, basically when ChatGPT first came out, that, hey, now that this stuff is approaching good, let's rework our contracts and make sure that everything is like no AI, some AI. There's AI representations of famous people that are out there now. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work. Famous people that have passed, right? Like Michael Jackson or Prince or somebody like that, I think has agreed with the estate of that person to have some AI things hosted. And I'm not sure what this ruling does to that. Like, is that better? Is that different? I'm not sure. But I think what's interesting about like who owns what is always an interesting question. That's the beauty of being a consultant with SDG, is that I know I don't own anything that I do for SDG, because that's not how we do things, right? Like, of course, I'm not going to develop a first-person shooter at a client or anything like that, right? And if I do, I would be working the coolest gig ever, and I'd get to put, my byline in there somewhere in the credits of the game, but it wouldn't be like my game, right? So
Yeah. So Allison, if you make a paintbrush and then you make a painting, is it the brush or is it you?
I think it's pretty definitively me. I mean, I think that's where it gets weird, right? Is like if we're talking about just tools, traditionally the maker of the tools have no claim over what gets made with the tools, unless it's, something strange. But like that's what doesn't surprise me about, if I created an AI that can help with, creating movies or whatever, I wouldn't have expected those studios to get rights to it. But what is weird is even the people making it don't necessarily get the rights to it. So yeah, it's a different beast for sure.
Well,
Yeah,
and
this
even
doesn't.
if
Oh, go ahead.
and even if people were, even if there were claims for now that was true, it still feels like there's a risk because on the ingestion end of it, I feel like that's really unresolved at this point, right? The fact that so many copyrighted works are going into these AIs, and is that transformative in a way that is legal or not, is still open to debate. So, if we have works that were derived from that, and then it turns out that was all done illicitly, and then now you have to go back and license things you've already done. That to me, for large studios that have because who's going to be the target of litigation for that? It's not the four of us sitting here. We don't have any money, right? But I'm sure there's plenty of people that would love to go after major studios to get the money that they have, right? If it turns out that the tools they used were illicit in themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
right. Well, I
And I
mean,
think
with the exception of Napster, you had to have a lot of money to sort of end up in court, right? Go ahead, Kyle. You were saying something.
Well, it's the idea of how much is the machine and how much is correct person being creative, and like what goes into the creative person. I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about. Is you're actually offloading some of your creativity to this machinery. It's like it's a collaboration because you're the sum of all sorts of stuff that you take in and learn, and like who knows what is you were born with versus what you learned you had a talent for when you make something. This has happened in the music world. Ed Sheeran won his lawsuit because he took the stand and played like 100 songs that use the same chord progression. It's like you can't, there's not enough chord progressions. So if you are going to make it this tight, you're going to kill music. Like it's otherwise we're all going to be sued into oblivion.
Right, but then at the same time, more specific, because there was a story years ago of somebody who wrote an app that just like systematically created every conceivable melody.
Yeah.
Right, just because there's a finite number of ways you can put notes on music on a sheet of music, right? So he just generated them all and tried to claim copyright on all of them, and then just runs around suing anybody he thinks he can win a lawsuit that happens to overlap with that, right? And that's obviously malicious in the way he's doing it.
I hope he didn't use AI.
This was like decades ago, so pre AI days, but
all right.
How do you prove
so
that?
I heard the opposite of that. I heard someone made all the melodies, copyrighted it, and then made it all like open source and gave it all away.
Oh, the white hat version of this of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Race to find which urban legend is correct.
Because we've talked about the white hat version before, right? And it's an interesting concept, right? I mean, is a dictionary really, like if you copyright the dictionary, you probably can't claim that you've copyrighted every story, even though all the words for the story are in the dictionary. They're just assembled in an alphabetical order instead of some cool pseudo-random repeated fashion. And that created, Gone with the Wind, or what's a good one on my shelf here? Something by Stephen King, Carrie, like Carrie, all the words in Carrie are in a dictionary, right? Except for the proper names, which can't be copyrighted either, I don't think. Even Elon's children's names, I don't think are copyrightable, but I'm not positive of that.
Yeah, that's weird. But there's trademarks and there's copyrights, but names aren't trademarks unless they're names of companies.
Yeah, I feel like we need our Prince expert here to talk about this.
Yeah,
with the artist formerly known as Prince, and be able to talk about that. But
it's that's all contract law. It's like, what did you agree to do? It's like, and then I think Prince's contention. I think I saw him on like Letterman or something. He was talking about like just how much they take from you. And when you're an early artist and you're desperate to be out there, and it's really the studios have the relationships with the different radio stations and all that. And that's where the whole payola thing happened, where you were buying your way onto the airwaves, and that got shot down. And it's the same like kind of scenario, but it's just way more complicated. And then just determining ownership of a creative work is determining how much is you versus how much is the thing. If you use AI to spell check something you wrote it.
Correct. I think that's a very true statement. That there you're using the tool, and certainly any spell checker will do, but whether it's an AI based one or not is totally different. I do wonder how this is going to play to software, if ever, because there again, right? Like, there's a lot of people using Claude Code to create things that didn't exist before, and having to do human work involved with that, both the idea and the implementation of it. But like, what does that really mean? Like, do you own it all?
And how distinct is it from its training data? Because when I was a kid, I remember there was a famous a lawsuit between like Microsoft and like I forget who they were suing, but the claim was that there was network code that Microsoft owned. I believe, and maybe I'm misremembering who the parties were, but I swear it was like Microsoft was suing some other organization that their proprietary network code had made it into Unix or vice versa or something. And nobody, it was hard. It didn't even seem like there was a lot of confidence in understanding the lineage of how that happened. Like, who was copying who was unclear.
Is that what made Git exist all of a sudden?
I think about it now, where like because I see plenty of examples of where a unrefined AI, you can just say, give me a toy cowboy, and it spits out exactly a picture of Woody from Toy Story, right?
Right.
And so if I'm asking it to generate code for me, how likely is it that a portion of the code that it writes is character for character identical to some code that has that has a license on it or something, right, that I'm not adhering to, and I'm in breach of that, and I might get sued, right? It's hard to know.
That's going to be an interesting test case when that one happens, because you'll have the person arguing that they did create it and didn't create it, but they didn't they didn't steal it. They just created it from somebody else that stole it first.
Yep. I'm gonna use my humanoid robot to go rob the jewelry store overnight.
Right.
I didn't do it.
I didn't program it to do that. I just asked it to get me some diamonds.
Right. And
now we're getting into the self-driving car issues.
Yeah. Let's avoid that one today.
So Allison, when you guys design like front ends for stuff and you use graphical elements, you have to be careful about like the graphics you choose and how they're licensed and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if it's inside a company, it's just for them. No one else is going to see it. Is that still a thing?
It's better to be safe than sorry, I guess is what I would say. So yeah, I think it's smart to be careful all the way from start to finish because, things move more quickly than sometimes you realize, and they switch hands more than you realize, and it could end up somewhere where you don't intend. So yeah, I think it's good to be careful. And it's funny, Eric mentioning that scenario of, what if you prompt design AI to design you a screen, what if it spits out a design that's identical to something already out there? And there was actually a case of that happening where in the very beginnings of Figma Make, which is, the AI that Figma made, where you could just type in a prompt and say, hey, design this screen for me. Whenever you prompted it to make a weather app, it looked identical to the iOS weather app. It's like, it's that same question of like, is that okay? Or, who is culpable if I were to release that and monetize it? Is that me or is it Figma's problem? Like it's messy.
Which is ironic because Apple wanted the iOS weather app to look that way because they saw someone else's design for it, and so they bought that app or bought that company to make that so. Right. So they went out of their way to not just license it, but like just to acquire it, for it to be that way, right?
Yeah,
that's funny, and you're right. Like, I want to design a weather app. I mean, there's other common applications, right? I want to design a stock ticker app or a word processing app, or I mean, there's so many kind of default looking apps that have pretty strong backgrounds, like word is word, right?
Yeah, and the things that existed, but and the way Apple's viewing that case is, well, all of these apps are like from a usability perspective are bad, from a design perspective are bad, and this one, the information's all very tidy. It's represented well. When it's raining, like in the background of the app, it's raining, and the raindrops are landing on the UI elements and running off the edges and stuff. And there's a depth of design there that they wanted, and they couldn't just copy. So they were
an iPhone.
They were, what's that?
I said, now I want an iPhone just for the weather app.
It is very nice. Not to get too far into it, but I just wish that their data source was better because it's beautiful and wrong.
I thought they bought the one that Howie Dell always was it Dark Sky? Is that something like that?
I think that's right, or it's very similar to that. Yeah. And I don't know offhand wherever their data comes from, it doesn't align with because that's the strength of other platforms. Like I go to some of the others and they're way more accurate on their predictions, but I got to sit through ads and it's clunky to scroll and stuff on the other ones.
I like the pseudo random nature of weather that seems to be presented by all the different weather apps. Will it rain? Is it raining right now? Let's look at 4 different weather apps and see if they know that it's raining or not.
You look out the window, it's raining, and there's only a 40% chance that it's going to rain.
That's right.
They won their lawsuit because the temperature was different on their screen. that they captured to put into evidence.
Did they win?
I don't know.
Please tell me they didn't win.
They don't match. Yeah. So you have design elements, you have aesthetic things, you have like,
There's rules, right?
the branding, like something gives you a visceral feel for something, the apple in the apple doesn't mean that every single apple is copyrighted, but the one that's on the apple on my MacBook here is you can't use that one again. They're too big. They got too much money. Even if they're wrong, you don't want to get sued by Apple. And then there's functional stuff. So it's like, well, and then heuristics, design conventions, things like that. Like it was always like the C on the page for eye tracking, like, left gutter, top menu, footer. It's like, well, if they used it and then you use it, are you copying them? Are you just making things usable? Alice, I'm assuming because you're in the design practice that you have the answer to all these questions.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Total legal expert. No, I think that's all very true, right? I'm sure it's the same in any industry. There's best practices. And if you go against that, you're forcing everyone to go against the grain and relearn how this thing should work. So if you don't put your hamburger menu in the upper left, or, whatever it might be, you're not being smart. It's kind of smart to quote unquote steal, because if everyone is using the same language roughly, that's how stuff gets usable and that's how patterns get built and ingrained. But where that line is crossed, I mean, certainly I know that lawsuits have been filed for, things that look too similar or feel too similar. And again, like I have a feeling even in the early days when like the iPhone first came out, I have a feeling even like scrolling and pinching and zooming, like all those new interactions, I feel like had a patent on them for at least a little while.
Yep.
Before everyone could use them. And now it's ubiquitous across everything. So I'm sure some of that comes down to just timelines and stuff like that. But yes, certainly there's some divide in what's stealing in a legal way versus you're cutting it way too close, Buster.
Yeah, the tool is the theft in the case of AI. Like, that's using all of these. Well, I think the early case was it copied a article verbatim from like the New York Times, and somebody got sued for that. I think OpenAI or somebody.
They just created it exactly the way it was supposed to be, and the New York Times just did it perfect the first time. That's all.
Yeah, is that the old adage? Like if you're building a statue, like the statue, or you're carving a statue, the statue was in there the whole time. You just got rid of all the other bits, right?
That's right.
It emerged.
It was meant to. Yes. It was meant to be.
So what is this?
It's in a lot of circumstances, like we talk, because you can talk about Hollywood and news and development, like source code design, all that, and is it becoming a closed loop where if you're trying to make a video and you're in Hollywood, well, the source of what got put into the AI is all of what Hollywood has produced in the past, and if you're trying to write an article, it's all of the articles that were written in the past, or all the code that was written in the past, right? And going back to like what is copyrightable, what is creativity, right? Without new ideas, that circle just shrinks, right? It's just a poor copy of itself, and then then that poor copy gets fed back in and becomes a poorer copy, and whatever. And protecting what is creative so that there's room for that to happen is the only thing that will make things better over time, not worse, right? Because if you make a general assumption that like if you're writing an article and the output from the AI is average at best, then that's to a lot of people that wouldn't be good enough. They don't want. If I was a reporter, I wouldn't want to write an average article. I'd want to write an excellent article as often as possible.
Right.
People might just be willing to accept average because it's easy instead of doing the work to make something that's actually excellent. So to a degree, it feels like some people in that space are kind of shooting themselves in the foot by just taking what is and accepting it. But but I don't think the tools are. I don't think it's that the tool can't exist in that workflow, right? Because Kyle, you made the point earlier about like we're the sum of all the things that we are, right? The knowledge we have, and AI is kind of the same way. Where as a brainstorming tool or as a part of that process, it can be valuable. And I think where they're trying to figure out ultimately is where, like, what's the threshold between you just spit it out and turned it in, versus it gave you something that helped compel you along to come up with the final product, right? It was a part of the whole, right? I mean,
and I think that's where AI for developers and designers and admins like Kyle and DevOps, I think that's where it feels pretty okay to use most of the time, right? Like I'm just looking for a hint on doing something, and in the past you just go out and search it, right? I need to do this thing that I know exists somewhere. Somebody solved this problem. I don't need to recreate the wheel. So I'm just going to go get it.
Yeah, but at least in the past, because if you talk about source code specifically, right? Like a place you would inevitably land is something like Stack Overflow,
right?
Or at least you could trace the lineage of that code sample, that it was posted there and discussed, and it's not to say that code may not have come out as something that has a license or a copyright. It's not impossible, but it's being offered up as something that is open to be copied and open to be used.
Right.
And in a lot of cases out of an AI, the what it's being based on may have been taken by force, instead of something that was being offered up or paid for through proper licensing.
When trickery.
I do wonder where all the coding knowledge comes from. Does it just come from GitHub and online searches, or does it come from breaking into Microsoft and stealing all their code and using it that way?
I haven't looked. I would put an asterisk on what I'm about to say, as I didn't look into it enough to know for sure. But I have seen people claim that because like we talked about, you can convince an AI to spit out a carbon copy of something, and I've seen people make claims that they can get it to spit out a carbon copy of code that's in a private GitHub repo. Right? Because obviously there's a lot of just publicly accessible code on GitHub. I mean,
right.
I've got projects that I worked on for personal projects that I just make public for no good reason. Like nobody's ever going to benefit from my code, but it's no point in making it private either. So it's just out there. And so someone, if AI wants to consume that, it's probably dumber now for consuming my bad personal project. But I think there's some expectation that if you have a private repo that's protected and private for a reason. And so if that's being scanned anyways, that's not great.
That's going to be an interesting lawsuit, I'm sure, when they can narrow it down and prove it, right?
Allison, have you ever watermarked a site that you built for a customer, like an app or something, like put a paper town in there or some way that if somebody steals this, you can tell. Like cartographers used to put fake cities.
No, I don't think I ever have. But it's true that theft does happen. I mean, the thing about designs is that anyone can go open your thing and screenshot it and paste it in Dribble or whatever they want and say, I made this, I designed this. Isn't it cool? And there's not a whole lot I could do about that.
We mentioned the dictionary earlier, and that they do that too, where they'll make up fake words. So if that fake word shows up in another dictionary, then they know they copied it. This, you know, same idea.
Interesting.
Or fake encyclopedia entries, same thing. And actually, and relevant to AI, what we're talking about is they do that too. Like the Google, I think all the Google AIs watermark in a not clear way. Because like obviously, if you just throw a little icon in the corner, because I think Gemini does do that, like put an icon, but they like interleave data into the output in a way that is identifiable that it came from Gemini. And even if it's transferred, like, even if you like crop, edit, manipulate it, that watermark persists in a way that's detectable, so that, which is really good because, hey, we got a war that's starting right now, or is it a war? Who knows? And you know, I go on social media and I'm inundated with videos of things being blown up by missiles, and it's impossible for me to tell if they're real or not.
Right.
And but thankfully there are people willing to, you know, look at all of those videos and be like, well, it's suspicious that this one's exactly 10 seconds long, which is how long videos come out of all these platforms. And then yeah, I checked and and this one has this watermark and this one has this watermark, so they're all, you know, they're generated. But yeah, it is interesting because, you know, some companies are willing to do that diligence to provide that clue of the lineage, but not all companies are, right? There's
Well,
plenty
people have been doing that for a long time too, right? Like they've gone and looked at the video and said, no, that the windows aren't really there on a C-130 or, you know, something like that, that they have, you know, expert opinion, expert knowledge that they can use to debunk some of the earlier videos from before AI.
Or even just that video is 100% real, except it happened 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
Like this, yeah, Iran did blow up that radio tower in a previous war.
Right.
How do you feel when you watch something and you totally buy into it? Like I was watching these Richard Feynman physics videos for like a week before I looked at a comment and saw someone complaining about it being AI. And I felt like I was duped. Like I was mad. Yeah, I didn't do anything.
I've just taken a skeptic's view of everything. Everything is a lie until proven real.
Yeah, which again runs the gambit too, because it's not unique to AI content. Because
right,
I mean, how many videos do you see that are just they're all, it's real, it's real people in a room and it just gets filmed and they post it. So there's nothing fake about the production except that it's all staged, right?
Right.
It's effectively a comedy act, but it's being presented as though something happened naturally.
My favorite thing is quote misattributed quotes, right?
Yes.
Those are the best, because there's a lot of famous people that have said a lot of famous things, and there's a lot of famous things that are attributed to famous people that just aren't. You know.
Yeah, Uncyclopedia made fun of that, where every single article, like it's like one of the schemes of that site is that every article has a quote from the same famous person. So there's always a quote from that person about whatever the topic is.
How many books have you read that just like everything is an example of someone else's story? To prove their point, they're going to quote like this other book. And that's their whole book, is making their point using other people's famous quotes. And yeah, they're usually self-help books.
There's a lot of endnotes on some of these, and footnotes, and the bibliography is like, wow, that's a lot of sources.
See, and that's attribution is important. And I think even with AI, even giving AI credit and saying, this is what I used. These are the things I used AI for.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and AI sometimes lies.
Sorry, I can't feel responsible that I made this claim because AI was, tricking me. I just believed it.
Isn't that in Copilot now? Isn't there something to that effect? AI isn't always accurate.
Oh, I think all of them have a disclaimer like that.
Do they all have a disclaimer?
Yeah.
Yeah, and if not, they should. and they've even done disclaimer like contextual disclaimers too, because I commonly use it to diagnose problems with my car, and they all now open with, hey, in case you're not sure, I'm not a mechanic, I'm an AI. I don't actually know anything. So maybe
That's
don't,
good.
and you're asking me about brakes, maybe don't take my advice, but here you go. And then it spits out a whole bunch of things about how to fix my brakes.
Here's an extremely detailed set of instructions on how to take apart and put back your brakes to make them work. It's probably right. You're just risking your life on it. Go ahead. Have fun.
All right. So can I ask the group's the opinions? Let's try and find the line, because I'm holding a product that I'm going to reveal here, and you tell me if you think this, like, is this good or bad? Is this legal or not legal, or what do you think? Here it is. I know we're audio, so I'll describe it. It's a book I was given as a gift, that my daughter was given, called Evelyn Meets the Magic Blocks, and this is a seemingly a photo of my daughter that was AI generated as the cover of this book.
Oh, nice.
And then on the back, it's got the title. It's got a little blurb about it. It's got a quote about the story from some publication, right?
Okay. Yep.
And it's a novel, like it's
Real printed book.
It's a chapter book. Yeah. Yeah,
You're
it's finished, right? Like it's not. It was clearly not like put together by somebody. It was it's all very finished looking.
Doesn't look like it was printed on my photocopier and glued together with tape and.
Right, exactly. Like it looks about as good as you'd get from the bookstore or from an actual publisher. And I can't prove it, but I'm pretty sure the entire content of the book, like all of the words in it, are AI generated.
Are they AI generated, or are they just they replaced the heroine?
Is it
Whatever.
customized to your daughter?
Yeah, it is. That's the thing is because I don't think it's just there's a protagonist and they just plopped the word Evelyn in and changed all the pronouns.
It's not just a Mad Lib with that somebody filled out and created a book.
Right, and that's the thing I can't prove. But it feels like it's more than that, because I think it reads as if it was. So my guess, and it's a guess. My guess is that the way this was made is a little bit of what you're saying, Peter, where I think that a Mad Lib style form was filled out where you're providing a bunch of details about Evelyn in this case.
Because those have existed for a long time, right?
Right.
Yeah,
I think the process is the same, where they're filling in like all these details, and then it's spitting out something where it's effectively building a prompt, right? Like it's saying, okay, well, Evelyn is a girl who's this old, has a dad. Here's their interests and stuff, and then make a story about this that incorporates those details, and then it spits it out.
It would have been great if they also gave you Eric finds out about the magic blocks, because that would have been hilarious.
Well, I'm in here as a character.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah, that's tricky, because like it's like Peter said, it's not like a new idea. It's kind of a cool idea to come up with a story that will be like, I'm guessing pretty cool for a young kid to see themselves as the hero in a story. So it doesn't seem evil, but and like
here I can give you the side by side too.
Oh sure, yep. It is a little uncanny valley in my opinion, but that's a little bit besides the point.
That was my initial reaction seeing the cover. I'm like, this feels wrong, because it kind of feels like if it was a normal book that was published, like clearly a wrong had been done.
Yeah.
Right. They used my daughter's likeness without even asking us about it or whatever. But obviously this is a one-off. Like this is the only copy of this that exists, right?
That you know of.
True. I have no way to prove that they didn't sell the same thing to someone else. I really don't know.
I mean, it's on Amazon. No, I'm just kidding.
And obviously the person who gave us this uploaded a photo of my daughter, right, to someone else that who knows what they would ultimately do with that photo, you know. But then again, my wife posts pictures of my daughter on Facebook all day, every day.
Right.
And who knows what happens to that data also.
It's like interesting, we're talking about copyright. So like if that was entirely AI written, should the maker of this book have a copyright to that story? Or like, is it enough that they came up with this business idea that other people shouldn't be able to do the same thing? I don't know. Because there is a creativity in making that into a product that people will buy, but
you made me wonder, like, what did they post? So
author tales.
Copyright 2025 authortales.com.
Maybe.
I could have answered a bunch of my own questions by just reading this page, because it explains exactly how it got created.
Oh, nice.
So okay, but it's a good example of sort of like, is this AI? Is this not AI? Is this partial AI? Kind of, sort of. But it's still a fun thing that has been going on for, I don't know, decades, right? Like my children had the opportunity, or I had the opportunity to pay real money to somebody to put my kid's name in a Disney book or something like that, if I remember correctly. Like, and that was more of a cut and paste, and sort of just take the protagonist and drop in that person and some details about them, right? But yeah, it's still pretty. It's got to be a little alarming, or a little bit, sort of, oh, this is a great book. Wait a minute, how did this happen?
Yeah, it's both the off-putting nature of, like I said, like under normal circumstances it would have been bad, but given the context, it's not. But also, we're also not all sure how to feel about AI necessarily in all the contexts.
If Kyle handed you that book at the office, you'd probably be a little worried.
Yes, that's true.
But if Grandma hands you that book, then it's a totally different story.
Let's not even make that connection.
Sorry, Kyle. If I handed you the book, Eric, that would be a really off-putting, right? Like, wait a minute, why is it? This looks kind of like my daughter, but kind of not. And how did this exist? And why did you do this? And so many questions. But if Grandma does it, it's like, oh, well, Grandma just doesn't know about all the AI things that are out there and thought it was a good idea.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, so I agree in that, in the context that it happened to me, it's all good, because it is what you're guessing is that it was a relative, right?
Yeah.
But this website's probably not limiting that.
I'm sure it's super secure, and they're locked down, and they're doing all sorts of encryption to store all the data.
There is fun escalation in stuff like that, because not all owners of AI systems are interested in user safety.
Right.
And so, without getting too far into the details, a prominent one, that's integrated into a social network was, generating photos of users who are like creating variations of photos where they were undressed.
Right.
And then of course, there was enough pushback where they finally agreed that maybe that was not a good idea. But then when they did it, they seemingly only did it because it was happening more often to women than otherwise. So they made it a restriction, but they made it gender biased. And so then people would just take a photo of a female, and then just apply male pronouns to it.
Interesting.
It's like undress him, and then it would bypass the restriction. So,
jeez.
And so there's this escalation of putting a restriction in place, and then it being easy to overcome and or easy to work around, and so on.
Vibe coding your security, not the way to go.
Right. Right. Well, all they're really doing is just tweaking the system prompt, right? Like, it's not even building it in the fundamentals. It's just somebody added a line to the system prompt that said, "Oh, if someone asks you vaguely this, then refuse." but you can, since you're just adding to the bottom of the system prompt, you can contradict that.
So when you saw that book for the first time, what was your gut feeling? Did you feel like there was some kind of a like overreach?
Yeah, it's seeing the cover, because I wish the people listening could see the cover, because it is off-putting in that it's a likeness of my daughter that I was unaware existed. And then, so that, yeah, there's that. And I guess the part we haven't gotten to too is that, we read a lot of children's books in my house,
Right.
and many of those books are the best books I've ever read. Like, I don't want to downplay the fact that children's books are short or whatever. There is a tremendous amount of creativity in a lot of them, and they're extremely great stories. And the what is contained in this book can only be described as slop, right?
Mm.
which is unfortunate, but
It's not the best children's book written ever
no.
by a computer.
But my daughter is not a strong judge of such things, and so she read a good portion of it even on her own. She's just starting to learn how to read, and was able to read a portion of it on her own, which was good. So there is that. But yeah, I was off put, and then when I thought through it more, I'm less so. But still, I'm not fully comfortable with it, because it feels like something that could easily be abused.
Yeah. I mean, bringing it back to Hollywood, like if I was a celebrity, it's so easy for anyone to do anything with my likeness, and it's going to be really easy for people to be fooled and thinking that's really me. And yeah, should they, like, what legal recourse do I have? What money could be made from people using my likeness on their own? Like, that's all pretty scary stuff.
Oh yeah, and even the president has been tricked into thinking, some picture or video was actually real.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's like, no, that was generated. You can see here and here and here. They don't have 7 fingers on their left hand or whatever.
There's always this lag of, like contracts. When they wrote them, they didn't know that the existence of these things would exist.
Right.
And so being able to write all that into contract law, and it's like, DVDs where they changed the music for the show.
Yep.
It's like, I think Las Vegas used to open with an Elvis song, and then you get the DVD and it's a different song. And it's like, well, they didn't want to pay every time, they didn't know how to monetize that to pay the royalties that they agreed to. And so that was a whole thing. And this is just, it's like the music industry and artists being behind, Napster, having to catch up to that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a lot of people have a drummer from Metallica to thank for, a lot of those laws and changes that got made. Lars. And that's, I think it's all about damages, and it's all about work and profit. And, it's like, well, if nobody profits off of it, if it didn't take money out of my pocket, if it didn't matter, then nobody would care. But it's like, when it might matter, at some point it might matter, saying that you own my likeness because I'm in your movie, and it means you can reuse this clip of me in future movies. It doesn't mean you can generate me and make all these new movies that are starring me, and then make money off of that without giving me a dime.
And so some of this is just a matter of time, right? Like, to sort it out.
Sure.
Because I think going back, like Tron, the original Tron movie was not eligible for the special the special effects Oscar, I think, because they used a computer to generate some of the effects in that movie. That was cheating. It's cheating. how dare they cheat and use computers? And obviously, things have slowly turned. Like, Jurassic Park was half digital dinosaurs, half real dinosaurs. Actually, my daughter and I were talking about this morning of like, how'd they make that dinosaur? Like Dad, because we were watching a commercial. How'd they make that dinosaur, Dad? Was it a computer or was it a puppet? And I showed her a picture of the full size T-Rex puppet they built for the Jurassic Park movie. And she she didn't believe it. She's like, you can't build a puppet that big. I'm like, you can do anything with enough time and money. Right. So it's real, but so that, just a little of this, little of that, but now we're living where almost everything is computer generated, right? There's not a lot of, and obviously some directors are different, but it's generally assumed that if you're gonna do a special effect, it's with a computer, and it's completely acceptable. And I'm sure there's a future where some level of AI tooling in that pipeline is completely acceptable and understood.
Well, yeah, and the new movie by the Martian, the Andy Weir movie, weren't they saying there was no CGI in that movie? That was all green screens and shots?
They say that. Like, they said that about Interstellar, and then there's clearly a bunch of CG robots running around on there, right? So I think I feel like that's like we're like a prioritization toward that gets confused with it being an absolute,
right?
Because even if something as small as like, well, a big, spoiler alert, a big part of that is like happens in microgravity. So you need your actor floating around in a cabin. So unless you're going to launch him into space to film it, you're going to have to.
It's all wires and pulleys.
Sure, but you got to paint them out. So now that's a special effect, right?
Right.
All I know is if you're floating in space in a movie, you have to be wearing a hat, or you have to have your hair pulled back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or you could do. Well, I mean, I think they filmed. Was it Apollo 13, or there was one of the movies where
Apollo 13 was on the Vomit Comet.
Yeah, the Vomit Comet. So you could simulate it in atmosphere on the Vomit Comet, but only in little short bursts and at a great expense. And and you had a load of film crew in there, and they're all throwing up constantly because it's very nauseating and stuff. So not an ideal circumstance.
Let's remember, Allison's not feeling well.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Never mind.
Thank you.
Yes.
Just a plane that goes up and down and up and
oh no.
Smoothly.
And she hangs up. That's what I would do. I'm out. It's complicated, but it's kind of fun to talk about, and because it makes you think about this stuff. And I don't know. I'm gonna still get mad when I get tricked.
Okay.
I'm always going to get mad if you trick me. I don't like being tricked. And I think, there's a certain amount of like scarcity, like art has a impact, and it might not be an artist's lifetime, but you go to the Art Institute in Chicago and you see a Van Gogh, and it's like, oh, wow, this is what people are talking about when they have a visceral reaction to something. When you first saw these cool AI images people were making, and it was like, wow, this is impressive. And how long did it take for that stuff to become far less impressive? Mm-hmm. Because you knew it was AI that was doing it.
Right. And how much energy is used to make it? That's going to be the interesting question, I think.
I saw a screenshot yesterday because a new GPT model came out, and I saw someone post a screenshot where he said, "Hi, my name is whatever," and then the AI thought for 93 minutes and then replied, which I'm pretty sure is fake. Like in terms of, like, I'm not
you
to
think
trick
they did
everybody.
With AI?
Yeah. Well, I think they modified it, like the time output or whatever on it, but it's because it's in it. That's just like deepening a running gag of like the AI's overthinking, or people telling you to like stop telling the AI thanks, because every time you say thanks, you're needlessly boiling the ocean for no reason.
Why doesn't the developers just ignore thanks in their prompt and just chop it out?
Yeah, that's true. It's true. It would be
I blame the
nice.
developers.
It takes a seasoned developer to think that and to kick that out, Peter. That was quick.
They
Just
tried to
chop it out.
vibe code it out and it didn't work.
Yep.
Yeah, that's my favorite. My favorite, you know, like announcement to answer is, OpenAI came out and said you can find, if you ask ChatGPT to not use M dashes, it will now. Like we fixed it. And then 1 minute later, somebody posted a picture of like, do this and don't use M dashes, and there was M dashes all over it. And and then I'm like, well, is that real? And I opened it up and tried, and yeah, it doesn't actually work. So some of these things are maybe easier said than done. I don't know.
I think a simple search and replace for M dash and replace it with just a dash, and then you fool
Done deal.
everybody.
Done deal.
Well, thanks everybody for showing up. Appreciate it. Allison, thanks for showing up despite not feeling the greatest. Nobody
Well,
could
worth it to
tell
be here.
until I let the cat out of the bag and pointed it out. But it's Eric's fault for saying vomit comet. So that's my parting thought. Anybody else have any parting thoughts before we?
My parting thought is pick up Evelyn in the Meets the Magic Blocks bookstores today.
Yeah, I do. It's fun being at the beginning. It's also a little bit sort of trying to decide what to do when you're at the beginning of something like this is challenging, right? Do you push the envelope, or do you wait for the envelope to be described and properly drawn to let you know where the edges are and where you shouldn't go?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to being retired, where I can, when something like this happens, I can just turn off the TV and go read a book.
That was generated by AI.
It's true. Too true.
I guess my parting thought might be, we're talking about copyright, and I think, royalties, all that sort of legal stuff, which I don't know a whole lot about, but in my mind, it comes down to, what should you be rewarded for in terms of having a unique take on something or adding something new, being creative. And I think that's the ultimate question here is if an AI writes, let's say, a whole script for an entire movie from me just saying, write a story, did I do anything worth reward and worth protecting in that process? Probably not, right? But if I were to give it a series of prompts related to a unique combination of ideas that had never been had before, or if I came out with like we said earlier, like a really cool product idea that was solving a need that no one had ever thought of in a certain way, it gets more complicated. So like Peter said, we're in the beginnings of it, but that's what'll be interesting to see how it shakes out, because it's a spectrum, right, of how much involvement and how much creativity is coming from the originators, the human originators.
Excellent. Well, thanks everybody. Appreciate it. Thanks for listening and staying till the end for all you people. We'll see you next time.
Solution Design Group is a digital product consultancy in Minneapolis. Check us out on the web at solutiondesign.com or look for us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram at Solution Design Group.